Vice President. And finally, it is my privilege to introduce the President of the National Association of Letter Carriers. He is a second-generation letter carrier who started his career in 2004, working side by side with his father Ken in the same post office in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
I did that with my dad.
Over the 20 years, he has served letter carriers at every level of this union, in Branch 938, in the Mississippi State Association, in Region 8, as a staffer of the union's national headquarters, and as Director of City Delivery and Executive Vice President. Since his election as our union's president in 2022, he has tirelessly championed raising awareness among law enforcement, U.S. attorneys, members of Congress, the media, and the general public about the rising wave of crime against letter carriers. In doing so, he has mobilized our members all across the country to raise their voices in support of improved safety measures to combat this problem. Earlier this year, he convinced key leaders in Congress to introduce legislation that would provide funding to the Postal Service for needed security measures, that would provide a dedicated prosecutor in every judicial district, and that would strengthen sentencing guidelines to ensure that crimes committed against letter carriers are treated in the same manner as assaults on federal law enforcement officials. I know that you are as committed as he is in enacting the Protect Our Letter Carriers Act. Brothers and sisters, please welcome the 19th President of the National Association of Letter Carriers, Brian Renfroe.
Boo! Boo!
Thank you, Nicole. It's great to be here with all of you. I want to start this morning by offering a special thanks to Branch 34. We heard from President Tom Rooney this morning, and I think gave us a very concise education on the city of Boston. But it takes a lot of people from the local branch to make one of these conventions move, and Branch 34 has been excellent. Thank you all. Thank you most of all of you, the delegates. We would not be here without you. So thank you all for taking the time to travel here and carry out the important business of our great union, the National Association of Letter Carriers. Whether it's your first convention or your 20th, welcome. I'm glad you're here. We are glad you're here. And I hope you look forward to a productive and exciting week. We're fortunate to be gathering for our 73rd convention in Boston, one of America's greatest labor cities. Boston, of course, was the birthplace of the American Revolution. We've heard about that this morning. We all know the story of the Boston Tea Party, the legend of Paul Revere's famous midnight ride, and the battles of Lexington and Concord. But what you may not know is that more than 100 years before those historical events, the first post office in the British colonies was established right here in the city of Boston. In 1639, the Massachusetts General Court created a post office for letters coming in and out of the colonies to overseas posts. While our post office, that particular post office, is no longer here, our postal system is still essential now, nearly 400 years later. Boston also holds some important NALC history. It is the birthplace of our national publication, Postal Record. Boston is also the location that our members chose to hold their very first national convention. They convened here in 1890, just 1 year after our union was founded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. While this convention looks a little bit different, I think there's probably a few more people, and I don't think they had nearly this many screens. What I do know is that our mission is the same as it was in 1890. To come together to fight for the rights and working lives of city letter carriers. And that is exactly what we are going to do here this week. Much work has been done. A lot has been accomplished since we convened in Chicago just 2 years ago. We are and have been deep in negotiations with the Postal Service for a new collective bargaining agreement. An agreement that will fairly reward letter carriers for our contributions to the Postal Service. We're now more than 3 years in to the Postal Service's 10-year strategic plan, the Delivering for America plan. While this plan isn't perfect, the larger goal of modernization of the Postal Service is essential for our future. We've been heavily involved in all aspects of the plan that both directly and indirectly affect city letter carriers. We've had an impact on its major components, such as the design of the next generation delivery vehicles and the opening of the new sorting and delivery centers, and we've successfully advocated for changes in the plan related to the overall transformation of postal operations. We've also dealt with staffing shortages by negotiating numerous MOUs with the Postal Service to implement an all-career model in hundreds of installations around the country, resulting in improved staffing in many locations. We've helped uphold democracy in the 2020 midterm elections by delivering tens of millions of ballots. Our work ensured once again a safe and accessible election, and we will do that again this November. We've stayed engaged on Capitol Hill fighting for our interests, all while working to continue to grow participation in our letter carrier political fund. Once again, we hosted a Stamp Out Hunger food drive, the largest one-day food drive in the country, and in 2024, we collected nearly 50% more food than we did in 2023, and we have even bigger plans in 2025. And our branches across the country, once again, as we've done for many years, got creative, holding fundraising events for our official charity, the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Last year, we surpassed our fundraising goal of $1 million, and we are on track to do that again in 2024. All of this progress has only been possible through our collective effort, our empowered solidarity. As I travel across the country to meet with our members, I see, hear, and feel our union's passion, strength, in solidarity at every branch meeting, retirement event, regional rap session, state convention, or whatever the occasion. And even though we've only been here for a couple of days, perhaps more than ever, I feel it right here in Boston. Brothers and sisters, whether it's representation of our members on the workroom floor, training our representatives, negotiating with the Postal Service at the regional or the national level, advocating for our issues in the halls of Congress and the White House, working with the Department of Labor to help our members that are injured on the job, or assisting our members going through any type of difficulty, our union has never been stronger.
Is Brian going to say something?
But our long history of success has always been fueled by the desire and the endless strategic effort to improve everything we do. And that is what we must continue. Our theme here this week is Grow, Rise, Together. Looking forward as we work to strengthen our union, build on our successes, and achieve new goals, embodying this theme and all the initiatives that come with it will be essential. So this week, as we look ahead to the next 2 years of our union, I encourage you all to embrace this convention theme. But not just here in Boston. Let's take it back to our branches, our regions, and our states and spread this message. Our empowered solidarity is our greatest strength, and it is how we achieve our goals. Now, let me get into what I'm sure is at the top of mind for most of you, as it is for me every day, and that's collective bargaining. In February 2023, we kicked off negotiations with the Postal Service for a new CBA. Undoubtedly, we faced a tough and very difficult environment, a very different environment, entering this round of bargaining than we have in previous years. We started negotiations as letter carriers had just helped usher our country through a global pandemic. While parts of our economy shut down, offices and restaurants closed, letter carriers stepped up and delivered during the crisis. We kept things moving every single day. You were on your routes, serving your customers, delivering home essentials, school supplies, medications, stimulus checks, COVID tests, ballots, and much, much more.
That's a home drinking.
This wasn't easy, and it didn't come without serious challenges. In my opinion, our union did some of the best collective bargaining in its history during the pandemic. On a day-to-day basis, we worked around the clock to protect the safety and health of our members while overcoming extremely difficult circumstances to ensure that we continue to serve the American people. Letter carriers have long known the power of our network, our workforce, and our crowd. And the pandemic reminded the rest of the country. We are the heartbeat of the Postal Service. We keep it running, and we always will. Aside from pandemic-related challenges, crime against letter carriers has been on the rise. Yet another factor making our jobs more difficult, and in some cases undermining the Postal Service's ability to attract new letter carriers to the job. When we opened bargaining, unemployment rates were at a 50-year low, giving job seekers plenty of options. Organized labor in the private sector has celebrated some massive victories in the time since we last met in Chicago, and private sector wages have soared. Last year alone resulted in historic agreements for auto workers, UPS employees, screenwriters, actors, pilots, teachers, and more. We stood in solidarity with our brothers and sisters and celebrated every single one of those victories. However, despite these labor wins and a booming economy, it is a reality that the Postal Service was and is in a much different position than most private sector employers. Even though the Postal Service had record-breaking increases in parcel revenue during the pandemic, and the crushing pre-funding mandate was repealed through the Postal Service Reform Act, higher than expected costs due to surging inflation, significant investment in new infrastructure, and the high employee turnover costs all contributed to the Postal Service reporting a loss of $6.5 billion in fiscal year 2023. While it's certainly challenging to negotiate with an employer that's losing money, we've been doing that for 15 years, we saw this as an opportunity. Through a fair contract, the Postal Service could strengthen the letter carrier workforce and in turn bolster the Postal Service's ability to achieve the goals in its plan. Our primary goals were simple from the start: obtain wage increases and maintain cost of living protections for letter carriers that reward us for our contributions to the Postal Service and the increasingly challenging nature of our work. Eliminate the two-table wage structure and replace it with a single pay table that not only increases starting pay, but also raises top pay while reducing the time it takes to get there.
We haven't done any of this.
Maintain our protections against job threats like subcontracting. Negotiate changes to work rules that benefit our members. All these proposals that we submit in collective bargaining are derived from resolutions submitted by branches and state associations that are then debated at the National Convention and adopted by delegates to those conventions to become official bargaining positions of the NALC. Every one of us in this room should be energized by the opportunity we have to do that again this week. We have been in continuing good faith negotiations with the Postal Service from the start. This year, we have been operating on dual tracks, finalizing preparations for interest arbitration while continuing to meet and discuss issues with the Postal Service to work towards a negotiated agreement. In March, NALC and the Postal Service selected arbitrator Dennis Nolan to serve as a neutral chair of a three-person interest arbitration panel. You may remember arbitrator Nolan previously served as our neutral arbitrator in our interest arbitration proceedings for the 2019 agreement, which were nearly completed when we reached a negotiated settlement in late 2020. We were in the process of scheduling interest arbitration hearing dates when progress in our talks with the Postal Service began to move more quickly a few weeks ago. Since then, we have spent a week in a hotel lockdown with our counterparts in the Postal Service, where we made even more progress. Today, we are near agreement on the major economic pieces of a tentative agreement. It is very possible, even likely, that a tentative agreement to send out to NALC members to consider for ratification will be reached. And such an agreement will address the goals that I've outlined from the start of this process last June.
No.
Many of you have heard me say this, but it cannot be said enough. If our goal was to reach an agreement as fast as possible, we could have done that long ago. But that isn't and never will be our goal. We are focused on getting the best agreement we can for letter carriers. We will not accept anything less. This is what we have always done. tells us that this process takes time. It takes longer than I like. Trust me, I've been at NAOC headquarters for 13 years trying to make a lot of negotiations with the Postal Service happen faster. But I am committed to staying in this fight to get what our members have earned and deserve. We are almost there, and we are going to finish that job. But to be clear, even though I don't expect it, we are ready to go to interest arbitration if things fall apart in negotiations. I am confident in the case we've built, and I believe, if necessary, it will result in a favorable outcome for us. I can assure you of this: any negotiated agreement that is sent to our members for ratification will be one that fairly rewards and compensates letter carriers for our vital contributions to the Postal Service, and one that will uphold our union's 50-plus year tradition of achieving the best results we can in collective bargaining. While collective bargaining is rightfully so dominated much of our union's work since we last met in Chicago, we've also been busy on a number of other fronts. Another focus has been monitoring and staying involved with the implementation of the Postal Service's 10-year strategic plan, the Delivering for America plan. When we last met in Chicago, the plan was underway, but it was very new. We still didn't know how much of it would shake out once actually implemented. But we have closely monitored this plan, and we have been actively involved in all aspects of it. One notable portion of the plan that we have long advocated for is modernizing the Postal Service's vehicle fleet. The long-life vehicles have reached the end of their long lives. From the very start of this process, NALC was involved in the design of the next generation delivery vehicle. I personally began working with them on the design and development of the NGDV all the way back in 2013. Dozens of letter carriers have also been involved in the design and subsequent testing of the vehicle at every step of the development process. We gathered feedback from members across the country. We raised those concerns about the current fleet and how that translated into what needed to be included in any new vehicle. As a result, all new vehicles will include air conditioning, advanced safety technology, and they will meet the needs of our workers, not just today, but into the future. We also secured billions of dollars in funding through our work with the White House and Congress to accelerate the deployment of this new fleet. These are much needed upgrades, as you all know better than anyone, that we have continued to work towards. In May, the first 4 NGDVs were deployed in Athens, Georgia. These vehicles, which happen to be gas powered, are being integrated into the fleet following letter carriers receiving proper familiarization training. Now, a significant number of this initial deployment of vehicles in 2024 will be electric. And after 2026, all new vehicles added to the fleet will be electric vehicles. Our goal has always been to ensure that the Postal Service acquires a delivery vehicle fleet that provides a safe and ergonomic working environment for letter carriers, and we are finally well on our way to achieving that. The operational changes included in the original plan a few years ago have really undergone major changes. As a result of engagement from a variety of stakeholders, including us, the Postal Service has significantly altered its plans for the modification to its processing networks and the establishment of the sorting and delivery centers. We've been involved every single time the Postal Service has proposed and subsequently established a new sorting and delivery center. Currently, there are 68 S&DCs operational around the country. These facilities are being implemented as part of the 10-year plan to reorganize their network to better accommodate and increase package volume. We know that that is a huge part of our work now, and we must adapt so that the agency and the network are equipped to allow us to best perform what we do best, and that is serve our customers. When a new S&DC is being established, representatives from headquarters engage in significant discussions with regional and branch leaders. They gather lots of information and attempt to identify every issue we possibly can. We then meet with the Postal Service prior to implementation and on an ongoing basis to address any further issues that arise. Our representatives have been involved from the start in the implementation of every one of these facilities. There are also policy changes included in this plan, several of which are consistent with our legislative and administrative priorities. Some of these have already been achieved, such as the Postal Service Reform Act of 2021 that addressed the mandate to refund future retiree health benefits. We are closely monitoring all aspects of the plan's implementation, and we push back when necessary. So far, the Postal Service has been responsive, and we expect that to continue. We know the network must be modernized, which will not happen without some bumps in the road. But it is essential that NALC continue to have a voice as the plan moves forward, and we will make our voice heard. When we convened in Chicago 2 years ago, we were aware of at the time, new uptick in violent crime and assaults committed against letter carriers on the job. But at that time, I don't know that anyone could have predicted how frequently these crimes would occur and how many of our members would unfortunately be affected. Since 2020, more than 2,000 crimes have been committed against letter carriers nationwide. Last year alone, that number jumped to nearly 650, a 30% increase over the year prior. This is a disturbing trend that hasn't slowed down. 4 letter carriers tragically have been murdered on the job since we last met in Chicago. Brother Andre Cross, Branch 2 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Brother John T. Davis, Branch 385 in Youngstown, Ohio. Brother Jay Larson, Branch 245 in Rockford, Illinois. And just recently, Sister Octavia Redmond for Branch 11 in Chicago. Were all performing their duties when they were senselessly murdered. It's heartbreaking, it is appalling, and it is completely unacceptable. There are also, unfortunately, hundreds of other stories of letter carriers being robbed or attacked, often at gunpoint. And this has understandably left many of our members fearful to simply do their jobs. As we started really looking into the statistics of these crimes, we were extremely alarmed to find that very few of them are properly prosecuted at the federal level. So criminals were attacking our members, federal employees in uniform, serving their communities with no consequences. This inaction sparked something in our union. And in the last year, more than 15 branches around the country have held events to rally and declare enough is enough. Now,
Oh yeah, it's something good.
I've traveled coast to coast to join our members at these rallies to raise awareness about this crime that's happening against letter carriers. We made our collective voice heard and asked the public to keep an eye out for us the way we've always looked out for them. And to no surprise to any of us in this room, our members delivered results. Recently, we've seen prosecution rates increase and more criminals are being held accountable. But more needs to be done, and we will not stop until every single crime against a letter carrier has been prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We also took this issue to Capitol Hill. In March, Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, a Republican from Pennsylvania, and Congressman Greg Landsman, a Democrat from Ohio, introduced the Protect Our Letter Carriers Act. And we're fortunate that we will get to hear from both of these members of Congress later this week. This bipartisan legislation is the critical next step to deter these crimes from happening, prosecute anyone who attacks our members, and hold those who are found guilty accountable. This bill provides funding to replace arrow keys, which we know most of the time these criminals are after, with more secure electronic versions. When that key is devalued, letter carriers will be safer and less likely to be targeted on their routes. But this alone will not fix the problem. This bill also will ensure that there will be an assistant district attorney in every U.S. attorney's office designated to prioritize prosecuting these cases. No more pushing them to the side and letting them sit on someone's desk. When a crime against a letter carrier happens, it must be prosecuted, and it must be prosecuted as soon as possible. Lastly, this legislation would send the message that any attack on a letter carrier is intolerable by amending sentencing guidelines to treat these crimes the same as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. We all remember when we could navigate even the meanest streets without incident. We must get back to that and ensure that letter carriers can be safe while doing the work that we've always done. This legislation now has more than 100 co-sponsors in the House. There is a companion bill in the Senate, and we're going to keep fighting every single day until these provisions are signed into law. Crime has not been the only persistent threat to us on the job. This sweltering summer has again reminded us of the dangers of excessive heat risk it poses to letter carriers. Tragically, in June of last year, we lost Brother Eugene Gates to illness caused by excessive heat. Brother Gates was a member of Branch 132. He collapsed and passed away in a customer's yard in Dallas, Texas. Any brother or sister lost to excessive heat is one too many. We mourn the loss of Brother Gates and are committed to continuing our work to find solutions to keep letter carriers safe. For more than a decade, we have fought for comprehensive protection from the heat. Most recently, we have engaged the Department of Labor under the Biden administration on this issue. It is past time that all workers in this country are protected from heat illness. And we are finally seeing some progress on that front. Just last month, the Department of Labor released a proposed heat standard work rule. This proposed rule includes all of the measures recommended by experts to mitigate the hazards of excessive heat. We are grateful to Acting Secretary of Labor Julie Sue and former Secretary, also former Mayor of Boston, Marty Walsh, for leading this effort. Both secretaries are great friends to letter carriers and champions for workers. This is the ultimate solution to keep letter carriers and all workers safe from excessive heat, and we are pleased to see it now moving through the rulemaking process. While it still has to move through this process, it's a big step forward. NALC fully supports the implementation of this rule, and we look forward to doing our part to make it a reality. We're optimistic about the difference it will make for letter carriers and all workers who year after year are increasingly affected by working in excessive heat. The health and safety of letter carriers always comes first. So we focus a lot of our efforts on protecting our members from crime and heat. But those aren't our only priorities when it comes to our work in government affairs. We remain committed to legislation that will protect our retirement benefits, including finally repealing the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset that discriminates against civil servants. Discriminates against many NALC members, like my dad. And also a bill that would allow letter carriers who started their work at the Postal Service in a non-career position to buy back their time and make it credible towards their It's the same work, the same hours you put in, you deserve for it to count towards your retirement just the same. We continue to fight for proposals that will strengthen the Postal Service's finances. The April 2022 victory of postal reform being signed into law, a hard-fought 12-year battle achieved by all of you, was a major step forward for the Postal Service. Repealing that crushing pre-funding mandate was huge. Slashed the Postal Service's losses by more than $4 billion annually. But we knew all along that that was only one piece to the equation. We still need a couple of other changes to happen before the Postal Service can truly be on financially solid ground. First, we need the Postal Service to be able to properly invest its retirement funds. Currently, 100% of the agency's $300 billion in assets for pensions and retiree health is held in U.S. Treasury bonds. I'm not sure how much everyone knows about Treasury bonds, but I can tell you they are known for high rates of return. By leaving our money in these low-yielding bonds, the Postal Service is losing out on billions of dollars each year in potential investment returns. So we are urging Congress to allow the agency to responsibly diversify its investment portfolio. And later today, we will hear from Congressman Stephen Lynch from right here, who will be introducing legislation to do just that when Congress returns from their August recess. A common sense change like this could make a real difference to the Postal Service's bottom line and its balance sheet. Secondly, for more than 50 years, the Postal Service's contributions to the Civil Service Retirement Fund have been miscalculated. This miscalculation has resulted in over $90 billion in unjust expenses for the agency. This is unfair, and we have been working to get it fixed. While our recent efforts have focused on working through presidential administrations to make this change, we are open to all avenues and possibilities, and we will pursue it through legislation if that is what it would take to finally correct this long-standing problem. To protect letter carrier jobs, benefits, and retirement, we must make sure the Postal Service is financially healthy. When we sit down at the bargaining table, it looks a lot different. Things might even happen a little faster if our counterparts on the other side are not operating deep in the red. So it is critical that we prioritize advocating for these important policy changes. We're convening here in Boston just a few months before the 2024 election, which I think is safe to say it will be an election that none of us will ever forget. The presidency, control of both the House and the Senate is up for grabs. There's no doubt that there is a lot at stake this year on election day. Brothers and sisters, democracy is on the ballot. And now, maybe more than any time in our history, it is important for all of us to familiarize ourselves with the candidates, to know where they stand on NALC's priority issues, and have a plan to vote this November. In tomorrow's general session, we'll take a deeper look at how our work powers safe, secure, and accessible elections through vote by mail. We'll also preview how democracy is at stake this election season, and just how close our country came to losing our democratic system 3 years ago. Now, NALC has yet to make a presidential endorsement for the upcoming election. But this body, this week, will consider a resolution to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for President of the United States. And as always, NALC will be actively involved in the AFL-CIO's later 2024 program to help get out the vote and elect candidates that support us. We'll work alongside our sister unions to elect candidates that support us across the federal government. We'll use our collective voice, our empowered solidarity to support, get out the vote efforts, and engage with members of our community. No one can predict the future. No one knows what the outcome of these elections will be. But I know one thing for sure. We, letter carriers, are ready to defend our democracy and deliver America's votes once again. So, please participate in our democratic process, not just through our work as letter carriers, but by having a plan to vote yourself. I spoke earlier about this year's convention theme, Grow, Rise Together. But as I mentioned, this is more than just a theme here in Boston. This lays a foundation for our union's work over the next 2 years and beyond, after we wrap up the current round of collective bargaining. Grow, Rise Together is an extensive plan that introduces new initiatives and expands on existing ones that will strengthen our union at every level. I won't get into every single piece here today because it touches every single aspect of NALC in some way. But I do want to take some time to highlight a few of the critical elements that will help us grow, rise together. First is our ongoing and future investment in education. The key to improving representation is educating and sharpening the skills of everyone who has taken on the responsibility of representing our members by making that training as widely available as we possibly can. We are investing in standardizing much of our training and delivering it in a modular format. This format will allow it to be used in a variety of settings, from the training that NALC headquarters provides, to the regional training that is conducted by our excellent NBAs and regional office staff, as well as the branches out there that provide training to stewards and other representatives. For example, this modular format would allow those branches out there that have steward meetings to pull out short segments to teach in each of your meetings. The first piece we tackled was shop steward training. Headquarters staff, with the help of several others from around the country, developed curriculum and tested it with a class of stewards in early July. We are excited to deploy this piece of the training soon, as well as develop curriculum on a number of other topics in this same modular format. Besides quality curriculum, the way we teach is a key to effective education. We owe it to those that come to any training to teach them in a way that gives them the best opportunity to learn. We will train our trainers to use teaching techniques based on how adults learn. These train-the-trainer sessions in the very near future will become a crucial part of our education program. We are also in the midst of developing an e-learning virtual training platform. We must use available technology to make training available to as many of our members in as many ways as we can. While this platform certainly will not replace in-person training, nor is it intended to do that, it will be a new resource and expand opportunities for those who want to get involved but maybe can't make an in-person training, or they prefer to do training on their own. This project requires significant resources and time to develop, but it is progressive. It will both increase access for more learning as well as develop well-rounded leaders for our future. Another issue that we continue to fight in numerous locations is the Postal Service's continued failure to comply with the terms of our collective bargaining agreement and grievance settlements and decisions. Our primary means to address their non-compliance is, and always will be, our grievance arbitration procedure. NALC has the most sophisticated and successful grievance arbitration procedure in the history of the American labor movement. We are good at enforcing our agreement, and we are only going to get better. While we continue to file and win grievances when our rights are violated, there's a deep-rooted problem, and it's gotten out of hand. Some managers have taken the approach that complying with the terms of our agreement is optional, and that they can simply pay a grievance settlement if they choose not to comply. wrong. Compliance is not optional. But the Postal Service has demonstrated that it won't or can't make its managers comply with their obligations that have been negotiated in good faith. And like a lot of you in this room, I've had enough of it. Brothers and sisters, this is a fight. And we as a union will use every available tool we have to win this fight. From the Department of Labor to our friends in Congress, it's time to turn up the pressure. So to all of you in this hall and outside this hall to represent our members, keep fighting. Keep doing the hard work, and together we will attack this problem. And we will do what our union has done for 135 years, win for our members. Next is our efforts to grow our power and our influence through the Letter Carrier Political Fund, our political action committee. I talked earlier about some of our legislative priorities, which, if enacted, would benefit every single active and retired letter carrier in some way. The strength of the Letter Carrier Political Fund directly correlates with our success in Washington, D.C. Whether we like it or not, and I certainly have my own feelings about it, money talks on Capitol Hill. The Letter Carrier Political Fund is what allows us to build and maintain a pro-letter carrier majority in Congress. The more people who contribute to the Letter Carrier Political Fund, the louder our voice gets in the halls of Congress. And don't get me wrong, we have a long history of a very respected and influential voice in Washington, D.C. But there is room for growth. Currently, 12% of NALC members contribute to the Letter Carrier Political Fund. That's the most we've ever had. But it's only 12%. One thing I know about NALC, we are not a 12% union. We are close to 100% in organizing, successful in representation, community service. It's time for us to channel that same energy into building, growing our political power. I hope that most of you here are already Letter Carrier Political Fund contributors. We look forward to seeing you wearing your shirts on Thursday. The water bottles are pretty cool too. But I'd like for you to just take a moment and think about your own branch. Think about those that we work with every day. Are we reaching our potential? And we ask these people to contribute. I don't believe that 88% of people do not participate because they don't believe in the cause. I think it's because we haven't asked them. So when you all return home, it's a little challenge for everybody. Let's tell at least one person about the Letter Carrier Political Fund and ask them to sign up. That's how we grow our power. Many of you know that already do this type of work, that the process of becoming a contributor to our PAC through payroll deduction has become more cumbersome in the last year or two due to cybersecurity issues. We have pursued a solution to this issue through collective bargaining. We expect it to be implemented with our new national agreement. And it's imperative that we as a union are in a position to take full advantage of the opportunity that will be created by the implementation of a new sign-up process. We must keep a pro-letter carrier Congress and administration. The way we do that is by talking to our brothers and sisters and giving them all the chance to join in the fight, like those of us in this room have done. An area that we as a union already excel in is organizing. We all know that NALC has been the best organized open shop union in this country for many years. It's something we should all be extremely proud of. That 93 or 94, depending on which day you look, percent of letter carriers voluntarily choose to be part of our union. But despite this undeniable success, there's still room for improvement. And we will continue to put forth our efforts to enhance and improve our organizing materials, our presentations, the tracking process that we use until every single city letter carrier is a member of the NALC. That's our goal, and it's on all of us here in this room to do that work and make sure every letter carrier understands the benefits and the importance of being a member of our union. While we have long celebrated this organizing success, it is not something that we take for granted. We know that there are countless industries out there that are fighting their right to organize and collectively bargain. One main sector that directly affects us and the Postal Service is the delivery industry. Whether it's Amazon, FedEx, or gig workers employed by the different delivery companies, NALC and the Postal Service will be stronger when the entire delivery sector is unionized. This will only be possible through legislative reform that guarantees workers' rights to organize and collectively bargain. Finally, getting the PRO Act passed and signed into law is how we organize the delivery industry in every single sector in America. The PRO Act would take power from these massive union-busting corporations and put it back in the hands of the people who literally deliver for these companies, their employees. Next, I want to talk a little bit about a program that we started a few months ago, our emergency response team. Our ERT was established earlier this year and is set up to quickly assist our members who face challenges related to traumatic incidents. Representation and supporting our members is at the very core of what we do. Whether it's enforcing the collective bargaining agreement, assisting injured letter carriers, spreading our message on Capitol Hill, providing aid through our Disaster Relief Foundation, it's all a form of representation and support for our members. And the emergency response team is an expansion of that support that we provide. In March of this year, we held our first ERT training. 30 activists from around the country. They came out of that training with the knowledge, tools, and techniques necessary to provide crisis support for our members and were immediately deployed to the field. They are helping members with situations like the loss of a coworker, a significant accident, or other traumatic incidents. In the future, we plan to train more ERT representatives and expand the program's coverage to include other topics. In September, we are bringing our ERT together to provide training on suicide awareness and prevention as our next step. While these are difficult situations to walk into, I am so proud of our ERT representatives and the invaluable work that they are doing. Our ERT program is already proving what I already knew, and so did all of you. That if given the opportunity and the knowledge to help fellow union members, our members will jump at that chance and go above and beyond. That's exactly what they have done. I know our ERT members are eager to help, so if you or someone you know could use their assistance, please do not hesitate to reach out. There was a workshop conducted this morning on the new ERT program, so I hope you were able to check that out and get some information about the assistance and support that they provide. NALC proudly represents one of the most diverse union memberships in the country. Our diversity is one of our greatest strengths. And for our union to be as successful as we can be, we must continue to embrace our diversity. So we've set up new initiatives to help us better support our members and strengthen our union. First is a formation of a group to look at ways to better embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion in our union. We'll focus on understanding and utilizing the diversity of our membership. To be as strong as we can be, we must increase access and make it as easy as possible for anyone, regardless of their race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, or anything else, to get involved in NALC. There's an introduction to diversity, equity, and inclusion workshop scheduled this afternoon. So if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to check that out. We're also creating a women's mentoring program that will identify, support, and develop current and future women leaders in our union. It is undeniable that women who take on or wish to take on a new responsibility and leadership role face challenges simply because they are women. This is an unfortunate reality in our world.
No, I'm going to do that following.
As a union, we should be doing everything possible to make it easy and accessible for women who want to step up. This program will have experienced mentors who can help other women navigate these challenges in their roles. And I hope and expect it will result in more women serving in leadership roles at the branch level and beyond, which will make our union strong.
We're doing good in Vegas.
Trying to.
On Wednesday morning, during the workshops, there will be a roundtable discussion on these issues, featuring an outstanding group of women that currently serve as leaders. So if you're interested, I hope you're able to join them today. Now, I've laid out a lot for you here this morning. I'm almost done. We talked about what we've been working on, what we're working towards, and what we're going to implement to get there. The common thread to accomplish any meaningful results is to do it together. Our solidarity is what makes our union strong. It's what grounds us in our rich history and is what will propel us in the future. Next year will mark the 250th anniversary of the United States Postal Service. Despite our frustrations with management, never-ending battle to improve our jobs, I think we can all agree working for the Postal Service is still something to be proud of. Created in 1775 during the Second Continental Congress, before the Declaration of Independence, post office was created to foster our newfound democracy.
Yeah, you get a line on it.
Our new government relied on the postal system to inform the electorate and keep information flowing. Our work, of course, has changed dramatically since then. But the core of our duties remains the same. The work we do upholds our democracy and our country every single day. Americans count on letter carriers. Whether it's their ballots, checks, medications, packages, cards from loved ones, America depends on us to stay connected. And as we always have, letter carriers will continue to adapt.
Where?
We will continue to fight.
What color?
We will continue to be there for the American people. And we will do all of this through our empowered solidarity. We won't turn our backs on each other to just look out for ourselves. That goes against everything that being a member of the NALC is about.
Exactly right.
Instead, we'll look out for one another. Always. We will grow, we'll rise, and we'll do it the way we've always done it, together.
I don't think that guy on the
Once
right
again, brothers and
is
sisters, welcome to Boston.
Fat Jimmy, come on.
It's going to be a great convention. You ready to get to work? Let's get to work. Anytime I come here to the great city of Boston, I feel like I'm being translated. So, why don't you help me out with a few things? Let's start with this one, a water fountain. What do you call this?
Brian, that's a bubble.
Bubble.
That's a bubble.
And then what comes out of the bubble?
Water.
Water. It's water.
Where I'm from, this is a Coke. What do y'all call it?
Tonic.
Tonic.
Coke.
I feel like I'm getting really familiar with Dunkin' Donuts. Is that what you call it?
Dunks. Dunks.
Dunks.
Dunks.
Dunks.
Dunks, maybe Dunkin' the Dunks.
Dunk.
Never say donuts, it's just Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, I almost had it. What do you call this one on the right?
Brian, that's what we used to call the great one in Boston. That's the extra large coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, right? They call it the great one.
Large coffee, regular.
The great one. The great one.
I call this a milkshake. What do you guys call it?
That's a frap.
Frap.
Frap. Don't call it a milkshake yet. Frap.
Trap.
Now, this is really a po' boy, but I bet you call it something different.
That's a sub.
That's a sub.
Sub.
It looks like an Italian sub. Not a hoagie, not a spaghetti, that's a sub. Order that like that, you're not gonna get it.
Bacon.
And you don't put mayo on it.
So what's the last meal of the day called? The third meal of the day?
Supper.
Rhode Island supper.
I'm lost with this one. You'll have to help me out.
American chop suey.
Bingo. What's that? American chop suey. You have to order that sub. You have to try.
This doesn't look like any peanut butter jelly I've ever seen.
It's not, it's a fluffernutter.
Fluffernutter.
Something called home of the fluff.
Home with a fluff,
Home of the fluff, that's it. You
Drop this
can't,
on, you can see it.
you can't get fluff in other parts of the country, you can get it here though.
This looks like a basement.
Cellar. Cellar. Hey Brian, the Saints, they're cellar dwellers. Because they're always in the basement, cellar dwellers.
We picking up the lingo? Okay. To start, I would like to call up the Committee on the President's Report and introduce the chair of that committee from Branch 860 in Honolulu, Hawaii, Alvin Matsumara. Brothers and sisters, my name, like you heard, Alvin Matsumura from the state of Hawaii, Branch 860. Joining me here today